Okay, everyone, good afternoon. Very pleasant good afternoon. Hope you're all doing well. This is Patrick with the customer success team here at Peakon. Very happy that you've joined us today for this Peakon Actions webinar. We've started this series of webinars. We started it a couple of weeks ago with our True Benchmark introduction, and today we're going to be talking about a new feature in our product, which is called Actions. So super excited about it here on the Peakon team, and really glad that you're excited about the product as well and learning about it and some of the functionality and how we can get it set up for you. So those of you that are new to Zoom, if you're a newer customer, a lot of you are quite familiar with the Zoom technology. We use it on the customer success team for our meetings and our setup during the setup process and implementation process. But this is a bit different with a webinar. So we're going to be having a couple of polls throughout, a couple of questions throughout. So it's interactive. You can just click on your selection right on the screen. The lines are muted for me to be able to give the presentation and for you to not have any type of interruptions. But if you do have a question, there's a Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. You can just click Q&A and ask your question, type in your question. And at the end of the session, we will answer all the questions that are presented. We're also recording the session, so we will share this recording with you afterwards. And as always, if you do have any questions, your customer success managers, I'm also available to answer any questions that you might have. As I said, the intent of this webinar is to introduce you to Actions. I'll give you an introduction to the product, why it was created, and some of the great parts of how the product works. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Michael Dean, who also works on the customer success team here at Peakon, and he's going to take you through a demonstration of the actual product, how it looks within Peakon, and also how you can turn it on within your version of Peakon. And then we'll end it with Q&A. So any questions that you have, take them and also just wrap up. And then, like I said, we'll send you over the video. So let's start out with, there's a poll that's up for you. And the poll is, are you thinking about enabling Peakon Actions for the Peakon users within the organization? So if you could just take a quick minute and tell us if you are thinking about turning it on. And that's a good indicator for us about your kind of initial intent on using the product. Good. Looks like the majority of you are planning on using Actions, which is great. So that's good. So the intent, give you kind of insight as far as how we designed or the reason why we created this part of the product. So as you know, Peakon is really great at providing you insights, right? The first step of the survey process is to gather feedback from your employees. And that's where the process starts, the engagement process starts, right? Is engaging your employees through the survey process to provide feedback to you at the organizational level and also at the manager level through all of the different drivers that we have within Peakon. From there, the magic of Peakon works really well, where we give you actionable insights, what we call as actionable insights. So that's all of the results that you get and that your managers get in their dashboard. So understanding what their strengths and priorities are, understanding all of the satisfaction with all of the different drivers. But there's this additional step really that we wanted to assist and also to facilitate, which is, what do you do with this data? What do you do with the insights that you gather from the surveys through Peakon? And in particular for managers, how can we help encourage and empower managers to take action and to really start driving change within their world or their part of the organization? So we created this part of the product, which is called Actions, and it is embedded in the product to be able to help managers and help leaders within the organization take that next step to really look at the feedback, take those actionable insights, and then take action on those. And for them to understand what actions they're doing and what actions they're taking and how that's affecting their level of employee engagement over time. So being able to track actions and be able to track success with actions. So really the intent of the tools and the intent of the action tool is to really close this loop. So we go from feedback to insight to action, and we're able to close this loop and really have this holistic experience for the employees. So they give the feedback, the insights are looked at by the managers, and then actions are taken. So through this process of actions, which Michael will show you in just a few minutes, not only are leaders able to track actions by putting them in Peakon, but we also suggest actions based off of the results. So based off of the feedback and the insights that are provided through Peakon. So each of our drivers that we have suggested quick wins or suggested actions that a leader could take. And then we also have the ability for leaders to put in their own actions. They can set deadlines, they can track actions as they're completed, they can then archive actions, so they can see with their trending of engagement over time, they can also see how the actions that they've taken have impacted that engagement. Beyond that, they're able to share their actions with their teams through something what we call the shareable dashboard, so that transparency around actions is very available in the product. So it's not just about a manager setting actions and making a list, it's creating actions, tying it to the insights and the feedback that you get in Peakon, and being able to share the progress, regularly share progress with actions with their teams. So this is just a little checklist or a little context around how the benefits of actions are available for both managers and for executives or for senior levels. As I talked about, we can kickstart the action process with suggested actions in all of the drivers and sub-drivers. We can also add actions in different segments. We can also add actions in the values if you're using the values product. We can link any action to a driver and, like I said, track that impact. Deadlines, really important part of the action process, and especially for leaders to make sure that they are continuing the process and that they're completing these actions. We have this way of, like I said, archiving actions once they're completed, and really being able to view, manage, and add actions in one centralized overview in their main dashboard. So I'm gonna hand it over to my colleague, Michael, to actually show you how the product works and talk about showing you how some of this, some of the functionality works. So Michael, I'm gonna hand it over to you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks very much, Patrick.
Sure.
I'm just going to share my screen now, so you should be able to see a demo version of a Peakon dashboard. And what we're looking at here is the dashboard of a manager, the manager of a reasonably large team, a department of 120 people. And in general, she's doing quite well with engagement. Is above the true benchmark, has a few strengths here, but we can also see that Peakon has identified some priorities. And now with the actions feature, we have a very clear workflow for how you would address these priorities. So we can see here that autonomy is something that she needs to work on. And the way we would imagine this working is you would then click through to the autonomy driver, and you can see right at the top, immediately, we have this new area that's called summary and actions. So we summarize why Peakon's analytics engine has pulled out this driver as a priority, and you can also see the action planning area. But the way we imagine this would work, you would come in here as a manager and you would look at your score first, and perhaps you would plot some of the other lines on the graph. But then the normal workflow would be to first check what's behind this score. And the way you can do that and the way you can get some more detail is, of course, through the comments. So we would go in here and we would look, okay, we have some new features coming out soon. You've got a little sneak preview of there. But anyway, you would look at these comments and you'll see here that there's quite a lot of things here about decisions being overridden, and that gives us an idea of what is involved in autonomy and why people would give a low score towards autonomy. And then when we come back to the driver, especially as a manager with a reasonably large team, there's also the segmentation is important here. And so we can see that actually the Toronto office scores a lot lower than the rest of the team that she's leading. So there might be something in that there's something about Toronto being particularly unhappy. People are particularly unhappy about the way decisions are made. So then when we come back to the top of the dashboard and we look at the actions area, we can see that Peakon has suggested some actions that would be related to this. And the reason we do this is because there's definitely a big learning part in Peakon around, firstly, what the drivers are, what the things are that contribute to engagement, but then how would you address this? And we see this as quite empowering for managers to understand what they can actually do and get a bit of a head start with this. So when we look at these suggested actions here, we have one for delegate decisions, and we know that looking at the comments that this is something that's quite appropriate. So what the manager can do is click the little plus button, and then we have this actions editor that comes up. And what we see is we have the sort of headline of the action, and then some notes here that give you a little bit more context. And we of course know that if you want to take action on something and you want to give yourself a bit of accountability to make sure you do it, there's nothing like a deadline to help you do that. Now, the way we would imagine managers would create actions would probably be for each priority driver they would create 2 or 3 actions. And what we would suggest is perhaps one that's more strategic. So something like this is not going to be something you would do overnight. There's probably quite a lot of thought that would go into this. And you would do that, and you would probably give yourself maybe a couple of months to really think about what changes you would make and roll out these changes. So you'd set a deadline for a couple of months in the future. And then, as Patrick mentioned, you have the option to be able to share this action or make this action visible to employees on a shared dashboard. Now, this is a feature of Peakon where, as a manager, you can get a stripped down version of your dashboard that just has the high level insights and not the more sensitive data like the comments. And this enables you to share this with your team and get everybody involved in sort of thinking about the culture they work in, and also get them involved in improving the place. Nobody likes to see low scores attributed to their team when you're part of a team. And what we've seen with customers that activate the shared dashboards in particular is that employees start to think about the feedback they give in a slightly different way. They start to become a little bit more solution orientated and start suggesting what the manager could do to improve. So as that gets incorporated into the actions framework, we would say, yes, we want to share this action with the team. So when they look at this shared dashboard, they can say, okay, we raised this as a problem, and we know that our managers listen to us and they're actually going to take some action on it. If you don't have the shared dashboard feature, we would still recommend that when you sit down with your team, you make sure that you let the team know that you are taking action on this, because it certainly at least buys you some time to let them know that you will be working on this in the future by the time they give their next feedback. Now, if you remember, we had this issue with Toronto that stuck out to us when we looked at the dashboard, but this is not something that Peakon has suggested in the actions, because these are more general suggestions. So what the manager can do here is to go in and create their own action from scratch. So they could say that they want to sit down with the team and discuss remote work, because we knew that was an issue with the team in Toronto. This is more of a quick win, so it's the kind of thing they could probably do in their next meeting. So they would set this for a few days in advance, and they could leave some notes here if they wanted. And now we've already got much more of an idea around what we're going to do to address this priority. Now, for a manager where you would probably have 2 or 3 priorities, you're going to have maybe 5 or 6 actions. And you don't need to just go to each priority to view the actions. We're going to give a list to managers where they can just click on actions here and see everything that they're planning to work on, which almost functions like a task list for people management. And then when they're done, they can click things off here and then moved to archived. So in the future, they can see everything that's been done there. Now, this has been the perspective of an individual manager, but what I'd like to show you next is how this would work for someone a little bit higher up in the organization that wants to have a look at how other managers below them are working. So I'm just going to log out from this dashboard and log in as another user. So you could imagine here that perhaps this is your dashboard as an HR leader, or as someone else higher up in the organization as a director. And you're looking at the organization, and you can see here in the priorities that Carolyn here has some work to do to improve her engagement score. Now I can click through here and I can get an idea of some of the things that she would need to work on. But we also have a navigation feature in Peakon where, for in this case of Carolyn or for any of the managers, I can actually search for the name here. and go and view the dashboard exactly as she would be viewing it in this case. So this gives us the transparency around the kind of actions that Carolyn's going to work on. When I click on the Actions tab down here, I'm not viewing my personal actions, I'm viewing the actions that Carolyn is going to take. And now I know, and I have some assurance that she's going to be addressing this feedback, and it also leads to accountability. I could even, if I saw something in the feedback from her team which I thought perhaps she'd missed, I could even go and create an action for her from scratch on this page. Now, those are the two main use cases, but of course, you also need to enable this feature for your organization. So I'll show you now how you do that as an administrator of your company. So when we go down to the Employees tab, which is something that's only visible to you as an administrator, you can then get to the Access Control page. Now, we see Peakon Actions as a tool that you would definitely want to give access to the majority of your managers, at least, especially line managers. This is who it's really designed for. So you would go in here to the Managers tab, and then down here you can see that we have the ability to access actions, which is to be able to see the actions, which is what we've just looked at, but also to manage the actions, so to be able to create your own actions and build this action plan in Peakon. Now, perhaps there may be a case where your executives, they don't want to do their action planning in Peakon. Maybe they like to keep it all in their moleskins or something like that. And so you would instead, you would use another access group if you wanted to limit the functionality of how this feature works to certain people. So perhaps with our executives, where we only have 4 people, we just want to give them the ability to access actions rather than the manage actions and create their action plans in Peakon option. So we can simply tick that box and then save it at the bottom of the page. And that's pretty much how Peakon Actions works in the dashboard. So I can hand it over to Patrick now. Thank you.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. As Michael said, it's actually quite easy to turn the feature on through the access control groups, but also your customer success manager can definitely walk you through turning it on. And in particular, if you want to turn it on for one access control group or one group of people, you can absolutely do that as well. But really, we feel that any leader or any manager would get a lot of benefit out of this, in particular the suggested actions, because the idea behind this is that, you know, one of the challenges that leaders have is what to do. Like, what is a best practice in this area? Like, if I'm struggling with management support, what are like top 2 or 3 things that I could do today or within a relatively short amount of time that will have impact? So we spent quite a bit of time putting together some suggested actions that are not only quick wins, but that would work for really any leader within an organization, and give multiple types of suggestions, because maybe all 3 wouldn't resonate with one leader, but perhaps one of them would resonate. And then beyond that, there's also the ability of creating your own actions and being able to make them time bound and being able to track them, like Michael showed. So, so as far as, you know, getting this set up and using it for your managers, there's obviously the turning the feature on within the product, and you all have the ability to do that now. But beyond that, something that's very important to us here at Peakon is our relationship with you and how we can provide resources with you to implement a new part of the product within your organization. So we've come up with some resource tools and some documentation that can help you with launching this within your organization. Michael has, Michael,
I could run, if you like, I can just run you quickly through a couple of those.
That's great, thanks.
Thanks. Let's open this up again. So now I'm showing the screen again, and we're not looking at the dashboard anymore. We're looking at the Peakon Help Center, which, if you're not familiar with it, has many resources, both for you as an admin, but also for your managers to come and learn how to use Peakon on their own time. So if we go into the Analysis and Insights section, we have a couple of articles here around the different use cases related to actions. So when I go in here about creating your own engagement action plan, we've created this resource specifically for managers. So there's a 2-minute video which walks you through a very similar use case to which I just showed you. But also at the bottom of the page, we have a presentation that they can access, which gives them 10 tips for how to most effectively create their action plans. And all of this is available simply by going to help.peakon.com. And if you're not familiar with how you can find things, you just type the name of the feature that you're looking for at the top of the page, and you'll be able to find it there.
Very good. Thank you, Michael. So we have a couple of questions that have come up throughout the process, and I'll just read them out and answer them. The first question is around if the webinar will be available for replay and sharing. It will. We will send this recording of this to you so that you can take a look at it again and share it around if you would like within your organization. We had one question that came in that says, can you share actions with only certain people instead of sharing with the entire team? So there is not a way right now for you to share a dashboard or share an action with a specific manager or leader within the organization. As Michael said, from the hierarchy perspective, the leaders that are in the hierarchy, as far as the person that you report to or anywhere kind of up the structure, would have access to be able to see the actions that you've created. And from that perspective, you could say to your leader, hey, I've just created a bunch of actions. Please take a look at my Peakon dashboard. And they would be able to see your actions that you've created for yourself or for your team. But you wouldn't be able, at this point, to be able to share an action specifically with somebody else. So great input, though, great product input. So we'll definitely take that. Another question is, when clicking actions on the left panel, do you only see the manager created actions or the Peakon recommended actions as well? So it's a good question. You will see whatever actions have been decided on by the manager. So the only place that you will see all of the selected actions are in the drivers. However, you can go into each of the drivers, and at the top, by clicking that summary and action dropdown, you'll be able to see all of the suggested actions for all of the drivers and subdrivers right away. So, and it's good to view it from that context, because you're looking at it from the driver perspective, and you're seeing the suggested actions based off of that driver. So right now, they would not all be listed in that actions navigation, in the navigation bar on the left-hand side. Next question is, are we able to see an example of the shared dashboard?
Yeah.
Which employees would see?
Do you want me to?
That'd be great. Thank you, Michael.
Show you? Yes. I'll just share the screen again. So right now you can see, actually we can take this back to here. So in the very top corner of the dashboard, we're back with one of our line managers here. We can see we have this share icon. And we can click this and we can decide what we would want to share on the dashboard. So we want to show the driver scores because we want to give people an idea of how their culture is from an analytical perspective. And we're going to share the priorities and the strengths to give them an idea of what you're going to be working on and what they're doing well at. And then we also have the option to share the actions. Now I could click the generate the link option, and actually when you do that, you also get the option to directly email everyone in the team a link to this dashboard. But just for this example, I click the preview, and this is what the dashboard looks like. So you can see here, we don't have any of, as I mentioned, the more sensitive things like the topics and the comments that have come out, which you probably wouldn't want to share between everybody else in the team. But we do have the main insights, and we also have some definitions of what engagement is and what the drivers are for employees that might not be so familiar with this terminology. And then, as you see here at the top, we have the actions that the manager is planning to take and what they have taken.
Very good. Thank you, Michael. And we have one more question. Well, there's a poll that's actually up right now as we just answer one more question, but if you'd like to receive the Q&A from the webinar, we're happy to share that with you as well. So actually two more questions. One is, if you select an entire region at the top left, would the actions show be the complete list of actions for all managers in that region? It's an excellent question. So actions right now is contextual. What that means that whatever context you're looking at is what you will be able to see for the action. So we currently do not have a roll up of all of the actions for example, for the entire organization or for a multiple segments or multiple areas of the business. It is coming, so it will be the next part of the product soon. But right now, if you did want to see the context of actions, you would just take a look and do a search in the top left and do a drop down of the search if you wanted to look, for example, a manager, or let's say that there were actions that were set specifically for that region, you would be able to see the actions for that region as a segment, but you would not be able to see all of the managers that are subsequent to that region. So coming soon, though. It's a great question. And there was just one other question as far as is the action feature available to customers? So all of those customers that are on the premium and the premium and enterprise packages, actions are available to you. So if you have any questions about turning them on, we are happy to help. Like I said, or ask the Help Center, as Michael said, great article in there as far as to share with managers. The Help Center is a great place to also direct managers to get content and resource content for them to help them with using Peakon. Like I said, our team is always here to partner with you on this. So looks like the majority of you would like the Q&A sent to you, so we're happy to do that. And please keep in mind that we will be running these series of webinars. We'll keep them short, about 30 minutes, starting up in January. Myself and some of my colleagues here at Peakon will be joining you regularly to tell you about new aspects of the product, new features that will be coming up. We're super excited about them. We're glad that you're as excited as we are. We thank you for taking time out of your day. I know everybody's super busy, so thank you for taking time out of your day. And if we can be of any support, please email us at support@peakon.com, and we will get back to you. And also your customer success manager that's responsible for your account is also very happy to help. So thank you, everybody, for spending the time with us, and we will see you soon.
In a few simple steps, the action planning process is now more transparent, accountable, and collaborative.